Chances are you watching this video are familiar with Scratch. If not, I'll briefly explain what it is. Scratch is a software, or maybe I should rather say a website, created by MIT, like the college MIT. It was created in 2003, and before some updates, initially looked like this. One second while I go vomit. Christ. Blah. But what made Scratch special and unique, not only in the past, but still today, is its simple format and learning curve, which is perfect for teaching the basics of coding to kids. For the most part, that's what Scratch is used for, both at home and at schools. However, there's also a massive community on Scratch dedicated to Five Nights at Freddy's fan games, which, honestly, I find hilarious, given that the team behind Scratch doesn't exactly support FNAF fan games on their platform. The Scratch FNAF community is made up of people that are not unlike I was just a couple of years ago. Young game developers wanting to learn how to make their first fan game who were drawn to Scratch due to its simple style and the ease with which games can be created on the platform. Like I said, I was initially one of the people that found Scratch and used it for a pretty long time, and I'm really grateful that it exists because without it, it would have been a lot more difficult for me to learn the basics of coding. Something that I struggled with a few years ago was the leap from Scratch, which isn't really meant to be much more than a tool for learning. When I finally decided to stop using Scratch, I began using ClickTeam Fusion, which, in my opinion, is the way to go if you're leaving Scratch for the first time. Similarly to Scratch, it doesn't require you to write out actual text code and uses a simpler, but less efficient, drag-and-drop system. However, unlike Scratch, it's capable of a lot and can actually be exported and shared on platforms like GameJolt. Scratch, on the other hand, can be exported, but there's no default feature to do it, and you have to jump through a lot of hoops if you want anyone to be able to play your games on any platform other than the Scratch website. Fast forward to the present, and I use Unity, which has you code in C#. I like it a lot more than both Scratch and ClickTeam because of its 3D capabilities and expanded range of tools. Plus, at least for me, writing code is way more efficient than dragging blocks into place with a mouse. A few days ago, I was playing one of my favorite games of all time, Cuphead. Something that fascinates me about Cuphead is the fact that everything that you see in the game, every single frame, is hand-drawn. And playing the game for the first time reminded me, didn't I try and hand-draw a Scratch FNAF fan game a year or so back? And the answer is yes. Yes, I did. What you're looking at right now is One Night at Jimmy's, a Scratch FNAF fan game I made in 2019. And while creating this game, I attempted to do what Cuphead did, and drew every single frame of the game on paper, photographed it with my iPhone, and uploaded it to Scratch, where every single frame was tediously and poorly cropped. Finally, all of this was put together into the horrific mishmash that you see before you. Due to the fact that I didn't have the proper hardware to make scans of the paper, you could see where individual sprites don't fit in with the background. The uneven lighting in the photos that I took, which in a perfect world would all be the same shade of like an off-white cream color of the paper, stops the sprites from fitting in at all. Alright, but what if, I thought, revisiting the game in my holiday break-induced boredom, what if I remade the game, using the drawing software that I've used in the past to make games and cartoons? I did that. I remade the game. That's what this video is. The project actually didn't end up taking as long as I thought it would, and the game was done after a couple of days. While the game wasn't drawn on paper this time, I did want to keep a hand-drawn feel, and so for this reason I chose not to ever use the straight line tool, and to mostly keep the game in grayscale. Drawing these old characters was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed trying to capture the art style of a 12 or 13-year-old me that hadn't quite gotten the hang of drawing yet. After drawing came the process of importing the art into Scratch, which is incredibly heartbreaking to do, because your canvas is immediately taken from 720p to 360p, resulting in some pretty crunchy aliasing. Whew, boy. So after I was done weeping over the corpses of my 720p images, it was time to get to coding. Scratch is pretty easy to code with, but it's certainly not efficient. This is because you have to painstakingly scroll through each block before finding the one that you want, slowly dragging it into place, and then typing in any required parameters. I fixed up some of the mechanics of the original One Night at Jimmy's, which I'm just going to reiterate, was not exactly a masterpiece. For example, in the original game, there's a mechanic where the user had to replenish their dwindling power supply by clicking and holding a button. At least that's what I wanted the user to think. In reality, you could just click the button once and the bar would snap back to full after a second delay. I was not good at coding. I'm still not, but that's not the point. The point is, I fixed this mechanic in the new version so that you actually have to hold down the button, okay? So don't try and cheat my game, gamers. What am I doing? After building my old game from the ground up, there were just a few more steps left to be done, such as sound design and debugging, and believe me, there were bugs. What is... Oh, I think I used the wrong effect. Lastly, I added a thumbnail and clicked that anxiety-ridden share button, and with that, I had achieved my stupid goal. I had recreated something that I had created in the past, but better. Creative, I know. Alright, so what did we learn? Okay, here we go. Scratch is a great platform for teaching you to code, and can even be used to create incredible, complex projects that I would never be able to make, even with Unity or ClickTeam. Seriously, check out any of Griff Patch's projects, because they're all incredible. However, Scratch is not fit for the average game developer for reasons that I mentioned already in this video. It's inefficient, it doesn't have support for a lot of things, and it can't be exported outside of Scratch's website without a lot of work. Oh, did I mention it's super slow? Like, super slow? My desktop was running Scratch at a buttery smooth 5 frames a second for most of my choppy trip down memory lane. But, despite its flaws, I enjoyed the opportunity to revisit Scratch. It's always going to be special, as it was the platform that introduced me to game development, and making a game in it for the first time in a while was a super nostalgic experience. The remastered of One Night at Jimmy's is linked in the description. However, I warn you, it's not great by any means, and the original is downright awful. But I hope you'll enjoy playing it knowing the experience of the frustrated game dev who made it to put it together. And on that note, I'm gonna go get back to my geometry homework because I don't understand radicals like at all. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Have I seriously not uploaded for 50 days? What is wrong with me?